Here is a closer look at Jason Kidd, who at his peak was a top 5 to 10 player in the NBA and one of the greatest transition passers ever, but is forgotten as one of the greatest modern defensive guard anchors. Before looking at some stats, here are some clips of Jason Kidd locking it down at the tail end of his prime versus the Miami Heat, the eventual NBA champions in the 2006 NBA playoffs. Jason Kidd exemplifies quick, smart hands that were able to frequently poke the ball away from bigs that would also lead to New Jersey fast breaks. Jason Kidd had a lot of strength for his size and is able to make Wade pass out in certain situations. He does this by staying aggressive, continually bumping him in the half court and staying in front of him. Of course, a prime young Dwayne Wade is going to be quicker and more athletic than the 99% of the guys he goes against, but Jason Kidd is smart enough to able to funnel Wade towards the paint where there's help and force Wade to kick out. Kidd was a rare breed of point guard who could actually kind of help anchor some stout and elite defenses. He was a part of 3 consecutive elite defenses from 02 to 04 with relative defensive ratings of -5, -5.5, and -4.9. Those were the number 1, and number 4 defenses respectively in this 3-year stretch. And in those 3 years, the Nets won 7 playoff series. These were all achieved without the Nets ever really having an elite rim protector. Even after the above-mentioned elite defensive team seasons, the Nets still stacked up a couple more solid defensive seasons in 2005 and 2006. Now, an important side note, this isn't to say this was all because of Jason Kidd, because those Nets teams were solid defensively, very much an ensemble effort, but it's hard to not see that there was no one more important to those teams than Kidd when you watch games from those Nets seasons. In 2002, the Nets had a decently good 3-point defense. They had a low opponent 3-point attempt rate despite being a high-paced team. They accomplished this while also sustaining a pretty low opponent free throw attempt rate, which was 10th in the league, which generally requires not allowing defensive breakdowns on the perimeter. The Nets did a phenomenal job at playing opponents off the 3-point line, and they didn't do this by funneling perimeter opponents towards a rim protector. I'm sorry, Todd McCulloch isn't necessarily protecting the paint, but rather because of tough perimeter defense. And no perimeter net was playing more minutes than Kidd. The Nets were always high in opponent turnover percentage. From 2002 to 2004, they were 3rd in the league. And while steal stats aren't the end-all be-all of defensive prowess, Kidd was always the leader in steals and steal percentage. Additionally, he was the team's 2nd to 3rd best defensive rebounder. The 2003 team, the team that had the Nets' best defense by relative defensive rating, actually had an average 3-point defense. Their best defensive metric was opponent turnover percentage, and you guessed it, Jason Kidd led in both steals and steal percentage. And once again, he was also one of their best defensive rebounders, 3rd best on the team in defensive rebounding percentage. Now, my question for you is, we all know about Kidd's offensive prowess, but do you think he's underrated as a defensive player? And where do you have Kidd all time amongst defensive guards?